Listen and then answer the questions.
Alif Hajiyev was born in Khojaly on June 24th in 1953. In December 1990, Alif became the head of Khojaly Airport. In the autumn of 1991, life in Khojaly became difficult. There was no food, no electricity, no gas, no communication. The night of February 25th to 26th, 1992, was the last day for many people of the city. The Armenian attack on Khojaly began. Alif and other 39 defendants fought for the airport and city against the enemy for several hours. The enemy burned the airport and many people alive in their homes, especially near the airport. On the road to Aghdam, many people died near the village. Alif Hajiyev helped the women, children, and old people. He died when he crossed the third group of people. He bravely served his country and became a national hero.
Listen and then answer the questions. Friendship is one of the valuable gifts of life. It is a faithful relationship between two or more people anywhere in the world. A person who has a true friend is lucky. Friendship is a feeling that someone understands you as you are. We cannot live our whole life alone. We need someone to share our joy or sorrow. It is easy to identify a good friend. True friends are truthful, honest, helpful, fair, positive, and devoted. True friends trust and support each other and never become greedy with each other. True friends lead us on a good path. We feel comfortable and share our thoughts and feelings with our real friend. We spend much of our time with them, and their behavior and interests affect us too. Real friends never leave you when you are in trouble. We should keep our true friends as long as we live, because devoted friends are hard to find. Listen and then answer the questions.
Charlie Chaplin was one of the most well-known figures in the history of cinema. He was an actor, a producer, and a director. He directed silent films in which he played the main character himself. One of his best characters is Little Tramp, which is still famous all over the world. He also made a comic film with sound about Adolf Hitler. Charlie Chaplin was born in London in 1889. His family was very poor and his parents sent him to an orphanage. He started acting when he was only 5. At the age of 21, Charlie moved to America and soon became one of the most important people in the movie industry. In 1972, he was given a special Oscar Prize for his outstanding work.
Listen and then answer the questions.
The United Kingdom has a developed and varied transport network. It also has a rich transport history. The first steam train was invented in the early 19th century in the UK. In recent years, the government pays special attention to the public transport system, especially in big cities. Many cities in the UK are providing the citizens with more eco-friendly public transport. Today, new bike lanes and paths are being created to make cycling a safer, more enjoyable travel choice and to encourage people to cycle more. You can rent or buy bikes from companies throughout the country for reasonable prices. London has created a public bike rental service across the city. The service is called Boris Bikes after the mayor who set up the system. The bike-sharing culture is growing and currently present in several other cities in the UK.
Listen and then answer the questions.
Renewable energy is the fastest growing source of energy in the world. It is an unlimited source of power. It can stop climate change and decrease pollution. Solar panels and wind turbines are two of the most common basics of renewable energy. Solar energy production costs depend on local weather conditions. In a cloudy country, the cost per produced kilowatt is higher than in sunnier countries. A sunny country like Azerbaijan has built a solar power plant in Biralahi. More than 4,000 solar panels have been installed there, which allow to produce cheaper solar energy. Solar power can be used in hospitals to refrigerate medical supplies. A wind turbine is a device that changes the wind's energy to electrical one. Wind turbines differ in size and shape. The smallest turbines are used for battery charging on boats and caravans or to power traffic warning signs.
Listen and then answer the questions.
Ali Mardan Topchubashov was one of the founders of the first democratic state in the East. He was a foreign minister of the Democratic Republic of Azerbaijan between 1918 and 1920 and attended the Paris Peace Conference. He collected official documents in English and French and printed them in a 50-page book. The US president demanded the documents to recognize Azerbaijan's independence. After a serious illness, he died in 1934 in Paris and was buried in Saint-Cloud Cemetery. His name was given to a street in Baku and the Institute of Experimental Surgery. Recently, ADA University has offered an international fellowship program named after Ali Mardan Topchubashov. The program is open to international students doing their bachelor or master. The aim of the program is to enhance the diversity of students and relations between Azerbaijan and friendly countries.
Listen and then answer the questions.
The National Cancer Institute warns that cigarettes are harmful and cause cancer. About 500,000 people in the U.S. die every year from smoking-related conditions. In January 2017, Hawaii became the first U.S. state to raise its smoking age to 21. In other U.S. states, the legal age is usually 18 or 19. Richard Cregan has proposed a new bill to increase the smoking age between 2020 and 2024. It suggests that the smoking age should go up to 30 in 2020, 40 in 2021, 50 in 2022, and 60 in 2023, until finally, in the year 2024, people would need to be 100 years old to buy cigarettes. He calls the cigarette industry a ridiculously bad industry because the tobacco industry designs this highly addictive product knowing that it is harmful and life-threatening. His new bill may become state law if it passes through the state bodies and strong negative reactions from tobacco companies.
Listen and then answer the questions.
The National Cancer Institute warns that cigarettes are harmful and cause cancer. About 500,000 people in the U.S. die every year from smoking-related conditions. In January 2017, Hawaii became the first U.S. state to raise its smoking age to 21. In other U.S. states, the legal age is usually 18 or 19. Richard Cregan has proposed a new bill to increase the smoking age between 2020 and 2024. It suggests that the smoking age should go up to 30 in 2020, 40 in 2021, 50 in 2022, and 60 in 2023, until finally, in the year 2024, people would need to be 100 years old to buy cigarettes. He calls the cigarette industry a ridiculously bad industry because the tobacco industry designs this highly addictive product knowing that it is harmful and life-threatening. His new bill may become state law if it passes through the state bodies and strong negative reactions from tobacco companies.
Listen and then answer the questions.
Green tea gets its name from the green color created when boiling tea leaves. Going back as far as 5,000 years, green tea is commonly drank and widely grown in the Far East. Black tea changes its color and flavor, whereas green tea remains unprocessed and retains its color. Green tea is grown in higher altitudes, more specifically the mountainous regions of East Asia. Some green tea is still picked by hand, and it is thought that hand-picked teas are less bitter and give a sweeter taste. Other factors such as the climate and soil can also affect the flavor. Sencha and matcha are popular of Japan's green teas. Sencha produces a clear yellow or green tea with a sweet, grassy flavor. Matcha's light and sweet flavor is added to desserts and sweet drinks. Green tea can be found as fresh leaves or in tea bags, frequently blended with other flavors such as lemon, lime, or ginger.
Listen and then answer the questions.
In 1928, a scientist named Alexander Fleming was doing research at St Mary's Hospital in London. He was looking for something to fight bacterial infections. When Fleming went on holiday, he did not wash his culture plates. To his surprise, when he came back a few weeks later, he noticed that a mould had grown on one of them. The exciting part was that there were no bacteria growing around it. The mould prevented the bacteria from growing by producing some type of substance. Fleming named the substance penicillin. Fleming published his findings in 1929. After his discovery, much research began into finding out more about this incredible substance. Although Fleming carried out many experiments with penicillin, he was not able to use its potential as a treatment against infections. Nevertheless, he is still known as the scientist who discovered penicillin. Howard Florey, Ernst Chain, and Norman Heatley further developed Fleming's work in 1938 at Oxford University. They were able to make enough penicillin to establish it as a valuable drug. The world now had a valuable treatment that would save the lives of many millions.
Listen and then answer the questions.
Although they have been protected for decades, 7 of the 13 great whale species are still endangered or vulnerable. Whales, dolphins and porpoises are fighting a losing battle against ever-increasing dangers. In the North Atlantic, they are killed in collisions with ships or are caught up in fishing nets. In the western North Pacific, intensive oil and gas development is affecting their feeding grounds and diminishing their food supplies. To protect them, a moratorium on commercial whaling was agreed, but in spite of this, over 1,000 whales are killed every year for the commercial market. The World Wildlife Fund, WWF, is developing a conservation program for whales which will address these threats to the species. It is also trying to bring whale hunting under stricter control. Its activities include research in the field, education, and working to improve national and international agreements. If it does not succeed, the whole family of whale species will suffer the same fate as the dinosaur.
Listen and then answer the questions.
I prefer books to films. For me, a book lets me use my own imagination to picture the characters and the setting. In a film, the filmmaker has done all the work for you. Another reason for liking books better is that a book is more flexible. You can read it when and where you want, for example on the tram or train. What I look for in a good book is great characters and an interesting story. I like classic novels better than modern ones, and I'm a bit of a romantic, so I'm a big fan of the Bronte sisters. I suppose my favourite novel of all time is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. It's a great plot. I like the way the author makes you think that the heroine Jane will never find true love, but in the end, everything turns out okay. And, of course, because it's a book and not a film, I imagine the hero looking exactly the way I want.
Listen and then answer the questions.
The clock in Prague's Old Town Square has fascinated the public since it was built in 1410 by clockmaker Nicholas of Kadaň and an astronomer and professor of mathematics named Jan Sindel. It took years to complete. Work on the clock stopped and started, with gaps of 100 years or more. The clock we see today was finished in 1866. There are lots of interesting tales about this fabulous clock, with its moving figures, windows that open and close, and of course, astronomical information. The city of Prague nearly sold it twice for scrap metal, and during the Second World War, the occupying forces deliberately tried to blow it up with artillery. The most famous legend about the clock tells the story of master clockmaker Hannes, who had his eyeballs burnt out with a hot poker by the city councillors. They wanted to stop him creating another similar or better clock somewhere else. Hannes then climbed the tower and damaged the clock so badly that it didn't run for many years. It is also said that the skeleton on the clock has magical powers, which keep the clock running, and locals say if it is allowed to stop working, the city will also suffer. So the city looks after it well.
Listen and then answer the questions.
Pizza is certainly one of the world's favorite foods. But where does pizza come from? And who made the first one? In fact, people have been making pizza for a very long time. People in the Stone Age cooked grains on hot rocks to make dough, the basic ingredient of pizza. Over time, people used the dough as a plate, covering it with various other foods, herbs and spices. They had developed the world's first pizza. In the early 16th century, European explorers brought back the first tomatoes from the Americas. Tomatoes are a standard ingredient in many pizzas today. At first, however, most Europeans thought they were poisonous. In fact, only the leaves and roots are. For about 200 years, few people ate them. Slowly, people learned that tomatoes were safe to eat, as well as tasty. In the early 19th century, cooks in Naples, Italy, started the tradition of putting tomatoes on baking dough. The flatbread soon became popular with poor people all over Naples. In 1830, cooks in Naples took another big step in pizza history. They opened the world's first pizza restaurant. Today, up to 5 billion pizzas are served every year around the world. In the U.S. alone, about 350 slices are eaten every second. People may not know it, but every piece is a slice of history.
Listen and then answer the questions.
The legend of the Inca gold begins in 1533, when the Inca were at war with the Spanish. The Spanish commander Francisco Pizarro captured the Inca king Atahualpa at his palace in Cajamarca, now part of Peru. Pizarro made a deal with the Inca. He would let Atahualpa go, but he demanded a huge amount of gold. Pizarro received some gold, but then he told his soldiers to kill Atahualpa. Angry at the murder of their king, the Inca put the rest of the gold in a secret mountain cave. 50 years later, a poor Spanish soldier named Valverde fell in love with an Inca woman. The woman's family took him to see the treasure. He wrote an account of the trip and explained how to find the gold. With Valverde's instructions, a Canadian named Bart Blake may have found the gold in 1886. In a letter he wrote, "There are thousands of gold and silver pieces." He also described the most incredible jewelry. Blake says he took a few of the objects. "I could not remove it alone," he said, "nor could thousands of men." No one knows whether Blake's story is true, as he disappeared soon afterwards. Mark Honigsbaum, author of Valverde's Gold, thinks the gold was likely taken out centuries ago. If not, he says, and if it's still there, I think it's lost forever.
Listen and then answer the questions.
I suppose all of us at some time take part in ceremonies where our achievements are recognised and rewarded. At school, the best pupils are given certificates and prizes at prize givings. In many countries, successful high school students are given their leaving certificates at graduation ceremonies, and universities often have elaborate procedures when they confer degrees. In working life, prizes and awards are often given to outstanding performers in their field. Film awards, literary competitions, and the Swedish Nobel Prizes are just some examples of these. But often, the most prestigious honour a citizen can receive is recognition from the government of his or her own country. In the United Kingdom, this means appearing on the Queen's Honours List, either on the Queen's official birthday or at New Year. In the past, these awards were given for killing one of the King or Queen's enemies, for lending the royal family some money when they needed it, or for winning great battles. The recipients of these honours were rich noblemen. But in modern times, ordinary people are given honours for what they have achieved in education, social services, music, films, and politics. Success in almost any field can be rewarded. The Queen usually presents these awards in Buckingham Palace at a special ceremony called an investiture. For many of the award winners, it is their first time in the palace, and the first time they meet the Queen. They are often very unsure about what will happen and how to behave.
Listen and then answer the questions.
What should you include in your CV?
Your CV should be word processed, if possible, and no longer than 2 sides of A4 paper. You should put your most recent job first. The CV should be relevant to the job you are applying for, so alter it to match the job requirements. The sections you might include are personal details, education, training, qualifications, key skills and achievements, work experience, and employment experience, your interests and hobbies, and your health. You should also give 2 good references.
What is actually relevant about hobbies and personal interests?
Your personal interests and hobbies should give the person an idea of the sort of personality you have. It should demonstrate your wider interests. You may include things like sports, what you read, and which clubs you attend. You should demonstrate that you are more than just the qualifications that you have. Your interests and hobbies can sometimes be used to decide which person will make the best employee. You should mention your responsibilities, for example, if you have been captain of a team.
How do you let the interviewer see you are confident all through the interview?
The best way to come across as confident in an interview is to speak slowly, sit up straight with your hands in your lap, look the interviewer in the eye, and don't look down. Also, take your time with your answers, and ask them to repeat the questions if you are unsure what they mean. It is also important to prepare for the interview, arrive on time, and have questions ready to ask the employer. In the interview, try to highlight your own strengths and not talk too much about weaknesses. Try to give examples and not one-word answers.
Listen and then answer the questions.
When English students sit their A-levels, it is not just a question of pass or fail. Each student who passes is given a grade, and for some students, anything other than the top grade is a failure. This is because universities want only the very best students, and they select them on the basis of A-level grades, using a point system which allocates higher points to better grades. It is an accepted fact that more and more students are getting the top A grade. Why? Are the students getting better, or are the exams getting easier? Mr. David Miliband, the Government Minister for Schools, has one opinion. According to him, it is because children are being better taught. And the leaders of 2 associations of head teachers agree with him, claiming that the standard of teaching has never been higher. But these comments are not coming from the front line of the battle to educate the youth of England. A different point of view can be heard from among at least some of those who work daily with the students. One head teacher firmly believes that the academic value of A-levels has declined. A GCSE examiner complains that he is being instructed to give top grades in English literature to students whose answers are full of spelling and grammar mistakes. And when not enough students achieve the top level, the authorities change the exam to make it easier, as they are doing with the new Maths A-level. Whatever the reasons for it, the rising number of top-grade students is causing a headache for universities. Although each student also has a tutor's report, it is difficult for universities to tell which are the best students from the masses of well-qualified applicants who want to study at their institution. Unless the A-level system is reformed, they will have to develop a new and radically different selection process.
Listen and then answer the questions.
Nobody yet knows the secret of everlasting life, but researchers in America are hard at work trying to find out how to make it last as long as possible. A research project called the New England Centenarian Study looked at more than 1,500 people over 100 years old from all over the USA to find out why they had lived so long. They found that people who lived long lives had a history of good health. It wasn't surprising to discover that obesity and smoking were two factors which seemed to shorten life expectancy. One unexpected conclusion of the study was that women having children later in life, after 35 or 40 years of age, were much more likely to live longer. Another factor of importance is that these centenarians were much more able to handle stress than the people with normal lifespans. Unfortunately, for those of us who are looking for a way to prolong our time on Earth, the major factor in longevity appears to be genetic. Very old people usually have parents who live to be very old, have brothers and sisters who are also very old, and their children are often very healthy and fit for their ages. We can't do anything about our genes, but we are in charge of our diets. A very comforting conclusion for those lucky enough to have a long life in front of them is that these very old people also enjoy a good quality of life. The New England study found that many centenarians had suffered no loss in their thinking ability, and that it was normal to maintain their independence until over the age of 95. So a happy and healthy long life is possible, especially if it runs in the family.
Listen and then answer the questions.
Russell Chadwick remembers the summer he turned 16. It was the time he wrestled with grizzly bears. Russell's adventure started when he came to stay at Wasatch Rocky Mountain Wildlife, an animal training center in Utah. The center is run by Doug and Lynn Sues, who train wild animals to be actors in television and movies. Doug and Lynn asked high school student Russell to help them take care of 2 4-month-old grizzly bear cubs called Little Bart and Honey Bump. That's more difficult than it sounds because even baby bears are pretty big. Russell's job was to play with the bears to get them used to humans. At the same time, he had to remember that movie bears are still wild animals. One time, Bump took a bite out of my back, and I had to wrestle her to the ground. But it also showed me how smart she is. She knew she had done something wrong and apologized by putting her head in my lap. Russell found that bears can understand more than just sit and stay. For example, when Russell called out peekaboo to the adult bear Tank, he covered his eyes with his paws, just like a little kid. Although he didn't get a large fee for the job, Russell says he values the experience more than money. When you've wrestled with a grizzly bear, things like work and exams don't seem so difficult anymore.
Listen and then answer the questions.
Diamonds have many special qualities. They're the hardest material on Earth. They sparkle in the light. Some are incredibly expensive. But could a diamond bring 300 years of bad luck? In 1668, the French royal family bought a large diamond from India. It became known as the French Blue. When King Louis XVI and his wife were executed in 1797, some people linked their deaths with the diamond's curse. However, 2 earlier kings had worn the diamond and not had bad luck. The Hope family bought the diamond in the 1830s. Soon after, Francis Hope's wife left him, and he had to sell the diamond because of financial problems. The diamond then became known as the Hope Diamond. Millionaire Evelyn McLean loved jewelry and stories of bad luck. In 1911, she had the opportunity to buy the Hope Diamond. Afterwards, 2 of her children died, and her husband became ill. In 1958, a mailman named James Todd brought the diamond to its present home at the Smithsonian Institution. Soon after, his wife died and his house burned down. So is there any truth to the supposed curse? Richard Curran is the author of a book about the Hope Diamond. He rejects the idea of a curse. He believes the curse could be explained by chance. But other people don't accept that. For them, the Hope Diamond may just be waiting for its next victim.